In this video, I'll discuss of what I have learned in modules 4 and 5 and 6 in GeCMath. Let's start with module 4, which the topic is correlation and regression analysis. But first, let's define correlation and regression analysis. Correlation analysis is a method of statistical evaluation used to study the strength of a relationship between two numerically measured continuous variables e.g., height and weight. This particular type of analysis is useful when a researcher wants to establish if there are possible connections between variables. Regression analysis and statistical modeling, a set of statistical processes for estimating the relationships between a dependent variable and one or more independent variables. Based on what I learned from the module 4, regression is the Euler equation y, whereas correlation is a single step. Correlation depicts the relationship between the two variables, whereas regression reveals how one influences the other. The use of correlation is for a quick and simple summary of the direction and strength of the relationship between two or more numeric variables. Use regression when you're looking to predict, optimize, or explain a number response between the variables how X influences Y. Let's proceed in module 5. The topic is about geometric designs. What is geometric designs? Geometrical design (GD) is a branch of computational geometry. It deals with the construction and representation of free-form curves, surfaces, or volumes, and is closely related to geometric modeling. In this module 5, I've learned information from lines to shapes, postulates, and theorems. I learned about points, lines, planes, angles, and formulas. I specifically learned about the midpoint and distance formulas as well as classifying polygons. I learned how to find the perimeter, circumference, and area of shapes. Architects use geometry to study and divide space, as well as draft detailed building plans. Builders and engineers rely on geometric principles to create structures safely. Designers apply geometry along with color and scale to make the aesthetically pleasing spaces inside. Lastly, module 6, and the topic is about mathematics of graphs. In math, a graph can be defined as a pictorial representation or a diagram that represents data or values in an organized manner. Euler path is a path that uses every edge in a graph with no repeats. Being a path, it does not have to return to the starting vertex. Euler circuit is a circuit that uses every edge in a graph with no repeats. Being a circuit, it must start and end at the same vertex. Euler's path and circuit theorems. A graph will contain an Euler path if it contains at most two vertices of odd degree. What can Euler circuits use for? Rather than finding a minimum spanning tree that visits every vertex of a graph, an Euler path or circuit can be used to find a way to visit every edge of a graph once and only once. This would be useful for checking parking meters along the streets of a city, patrolling the streets of a city, or delivering mail. Euler is everywhere. They can also be used to buy mail carriers who want to have a route where they don't retrace any of their previous steps. Euler circuits and paths are also useful to painters, garbage collectors, airplane pilots, and all-world navigators like you. Thanks for watching.